I feel kind of like Gilderoy Lockhart. Can everybody see me? Can everybody hear me? Good. I hope so. I see my little mixers going up and down, so I assume that I can be heard. So yesterday we talked about the difference in different roles that accounting professionals play in the whole accounting business. Now, a lot of people think an accountant is an accountant, and that's not true. The thing is, everybody kind of has their own niches that they fill. And it's important to know what their specialties are and how that fits into your business. Now, I am a general purpose live video take two. That was a little strange. Terrible feedback. I had to turn my speakers back down, and I thought I had it set so that it doesn't come in through the speakers or go out through the speakers. Yesterday I talked about the various roles that different accounting professionals play in the accounting world, and why it's important to know what roles those professionals can fill. Now, one of the things that you might want to do as you are looking into hiring a bookkeeper is to find out what their specialties are. Now, I am kind of a general purpose accountant. I do bookkeeping and accounting for a lot of different types of industries, and I will usually tell people that the ones that I don't enjoy doing are I don't enjoy doing like industrial or manufacturing, because that involves inventory, and that is its own very special headache, and I don't want to really learn that. And then, but other than that, I have done auto repair shops, I have done title companies, I've done mortgage lenders, I've done real estate flippers. I've worked with physicians and physicians' assistants, dentist offices, chiropractic, carpet cleaners. So you can see it's kind of I have a wide range of experience. And currently I'm working with a company that has many different businesses under its umbrella. So we have hotels, we have entertainment centers, we have water parks, we have apartment complexes, gas stations. I'm not even sure what all we have. Dry cleaners. So I have, by necessity, I have kind of a wide range of industries that I can work in and do very well at. However, there's some red flags that you kind of need to watch for to make sure that your bookkeeper or your accountant is what you're really looking for. Number one, they have got to be computer literate. This is the 21st century. If they are not computer literate, if they're demanding a piece of paper for every single transaction that you're doing, in fact, if they're demanding receipts at all, the only receipts I ask for are the ones that are for cash expenditures. Those I want to see. Except for industries where it's required by law that they have these receipts bundled together. My auto repair shops have to have certain receipts on site for a certain length of time to, to satisfy the law. Not quite sure what the purpose of that law is, but so I do their bookkeeping on site. It would actually be a lot easier on me if I could do their bookkeeping from my home office, from right here. But I have to be there. Other than that, if there's a legal reason why I have to have a receipt, or if it's something that the customer has paid, my client has paid cash for, then I want to see a receipt on it. I don't want to see it scribbled down on a post-it note, because that's not an official receipt, and I cannot use that to justify the expenditure to anybody. Not the IRS, not an auditor, not anybody, not even to myself. So those are the only times that I'm really looking for paper receipts. If you have a bookkeeper or an accountant that's demanding paper receipts for everything, they are not up to date. If they're using old software, or worse, if they're using spreadsheets, if they are not serious enough about their businesses to purchase accounting software, reputable accounting software, and let me narrow this down for you. That is QuickBooks, QuickBooks Online, Xero, X-E-R-O, and then a few like FreshBooks. If you have multiple entities, you might want to look into Intact. FreshBooks, just a few others. There's just a handful. It's not a wide range of software. If they're going out and they're getting some cheap, oh, my friend put this together for me, run. They're not in the software industry. They're in the accounting industry, and so they should be putting their focus on what they know best, and that is counting money, not on developing software. There's a few exceptions that I would make for that. One is if they're an established bookkeeping company, if they've been in business for a long time and they are developing their own software to meet the needs of their clients, and they're saying it's because none of the other softwares are really doing it for them, and they're looking to develop new tools, but they also have access to the more traditional software, then that's fine. That's something that I would be interested in looking into at some point before too much longer, is finding a really good software that, or even developing one that my clients can log into, I can log into, I can restrict their the client's permissions, because I don't want my clients in doing all the work I just did. But I can certainly give them view access, I can give them access to the parts that they need, editing access to. And so I'm kind of looking into that for myself, because I don't want to be tethered to QuickBooks forever, and even less with Xero. One of my red flags with Xero has been that there's no way to pull the data back out in any sort of usable format. If you go into QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, you can export their files in other formats very easily. I haven't found that to be the case with Xero. Those are the three softwares I'm most familiar with. Also, if you have a business accountant that wants to use Quicken, I would be very cautious, because that shows me, again, they don't value their business. They don't care enough about their business to look into paying what needs to be paid to have the appropriate software for their clients. If it's an Intuit product and it's a business and they're trying to run this through Quicken, Quicken is for homes. It is not for, it's not even remotely for businesses. It was never intended to be for businesses. I think they kind of stuck the home and business software in there just to kind of make a few people happy. I wouldn't do it. I won't use it for any sort of business activity. Unless you're like a multi-level marketer and you're really kind of having a hard time divorcing yourself from your business. And by the way, you should be able to separate yourself from your business. Then it's, Quicken makes almost no sense to me. I've tried to work with it multiple times because I had clients that asked me to, and every time I ended up with like a big red spot right here from beating my head against the wall, because it just didn't produce usable, intelligent reports for a business. I guess it will produce reports for a person, but I didn't see any value to anything that was attached to that. So again, if your accountant or bookkeeper is using old-fashioned methods to do your books in the 21st century, you might want to take a step back. That does indicate, one, they don't value their business enough to invest in software, and two, they are unwilling to learn. And that's a huge red flag in this industry. Bookkeeping and accounting is fairly simple. It's not like computer science where everything changes dramatically every 2 years, but there are still changes. So again, if they're using old-fashioned methods, you might want to take another look at that. If they're unwilling to learn, it's bad enough if they're computer illiterate, but if they're also unwilling to learn. If you have to coach them through every little thing, and by that I mean, do you have to remind them that they're supposed to be doing this work? Is the work actually getting done? If you have someone that comes in and they sit down and they just go to it and they care about your business and they care about you and they care about whether or not you're doing well, don't ever get rid of that person. And I think that's important. You can find other people with skills. In fact, there are probably better accountants than I am out there. I know there are better accountants than I am. But when I'm working with someone, especially if I've been working with them for years and years and years, especially if I have a personal relationship with them, then I care deeply about them. I care deeply about their business. And if that's the case, I will do things for that person that I probably wouldn't do for just an average run-of-the-mill client that I don't have the history or the relationship or the affection towards. Now, with that said, even with my run-of-the-mill, that makes it sound like there's just one under every rock, doesn't it? They're not. But there's clients that I will bend over backwards for because we have a history, we have a relationship. There are clients that I will go beyond what I'm asked to do because that's who I am. I would be mortified if someone said, oh, she just does the minimum to get by. I would be mortified. I try not to ever do that. Now, with that said, I can only do so much. But again, I am a self-starter. I get up and go hiking and work out and get dressed, you know, and go to work. And I was very flattered when I was told the other day that, excuse me, they were comparing me to someone they had in their office 40+ hours a week, 40 to 40, I think 40 hours a week. And I worked for this client less than half time. And they said, we get more work out of you than we do out of this other person. And I just was floored that in just a few hours a week, they see so much value that they're saying, you know, you're worth more than a full-time person. And that's just how I am. If I'm billing someone for my time, I want that time to be full of the time that I'm providing value so that they don't feel like I did nothing and just, that's one of the reasons I don't like to bill by the hour. I like to bill by the job because I know what it takes to do a certain job. But are they a self-starter? That's huge. You don't want someone that you have to call and say, hey, look, I need my checking account reconciled. You want that person to be calling you and saying, I'm having problems getting your bank statement and I need to reconcile your account. If you have to start them, then maybe rethink it. Another key that you've hired a really good bookkeeper. And I'm kind of using like a compare and contrast because on the one hand, they're the really bad ones are the ones that kind of stick out in my mind. They're the ones that, you know, are 120 years old and they're still using 18th century methods to do bookkeeping. I know I'm exaggerating. But they're the ones that are still requesting paper receipts for every single thing. We don't need that anymore. We have electronic trails now. The ones that are still using an abacus Oh, wait, or even a ledger book. We don't do that anymore. We keep it all on the computer. Um, so that's kind of a red flag if they're using old-fashioned methods. If they're current and up to date and certified, especially if they're certified in more than one kind of software. For example, I am fully certified in both QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Xero. And those are the ones that actually require certifications. I don't use Xero in my practice because of some personal reasons. It has nothing to do with the software itself. It is a personal reason, but I am certified in it. So if I'm confronted with that software, I understand it. I also have used Intact, Nexonia, FreshBooks, Zoho Books. What else have I used? Everything. I mean, if it's an accounting software, I can have it figured out in 5 minutes or less. Maybe 20 if it's really early in the morning and I haven't had my caffeine yet. So, I mean, I have seen many different accounting softwares. I've seen the open source ones. I've seen GNU Cache. I've seen just about everything. And there's some that I like and there's some that I don't. And there's some that I think could be awesome. I think tomorrow I'm going to talk about form versus function, which I think is a huge thing with Apple products and then with Xero products. And that's a reason why I'm not all excited about either one. I've never owned anything Apple. I probably never will because I feel like they're selling aesthetics and I don't need aesthetics. I need something that works. If it looks nice, great, but I can put a cover or change things up on my laptop or my desktop. I don't need it to be pretty. So we'll talk about form versus function tomorrow. But what you're looking for in a bookkeeper, you're looking for, modern techniques. Self-starting. Can I mention self-starting again? I have worked with bookkeepers and accountants. I mean, some of them have degrees and some of them don't, who do not know how to start without someone telling them what to do. And it floors me. Floors me. That's not something I've ever really wanted to do. I have been in management many times in my career. I've been in training. I've done a lot. And if I have to start the bookkeeper, I'm not interested in working with them really quick. The people that I like to work with are energetic and they take charge. And they're willing to wade into a mess. I would rather have someone who spends 3 times longer on a job and goes down the rabbit hole and tries to find everything that could possibly be wrong with these books than someone that I can't even get them to do anything. This is kind of how I am, because I would rather go down the rabbit hole myself, because then I have something I can take back to the client and say, I found all these mistakes. I also know how to do things quick and dirty, but it would be right, Another thing to look for in a bookkeeper, make sure that they don't like to take a lot of shortcuts. It's been kind of an issue with many of my clients when they start talking to their accountant as opposed to the bookkeeper. Again, I have been the bookkeeper. I've been the one that does the drudge work, the data entry. And many times the accountants don't want to do that. CPAs want to do that least of all. That's not what they get paid for. They get paid to be advisors. So as a bookkeeper, what I want to do is I want to hand them their books absolutely clean. And in order to do that, that means I can't take shortcuts. Now, all of the softwares I just named have bank feeds. That means they can connect to the bank and pull the information down online. I have a love-hate relationship with bank feeds. The reason I love them is that it can possibly, if they actually work, reduce my workload dramatically. I can charge more clients for this, I can take care of more clients in less time, which means I make more money. Love that. Love the idea of that. On the other hand, I spend more time fixing bank feeds than I would actually just entering the data by hand. And so at this exact moment in time, in June of 2017, I prefer to manually enter my transactions because it takes me less time to do that, even if it's a huge client. It takes me less time to just sit back and enter by hand and get it done and know that it's done right than it does for me to download or create a CSV or import. They would have to be ginormous clients for me to want to go through all that trouble, because it would have to be perfect in the CSV file and import perfectly. Otherwise, I'm just, I feel like I'm spending more time trying to fix a shortcut and it's taking longer. I am a huge fan, by the way, of doing things right the first time. That means I don't create a journal entry if I can fix the original transaction. Now, there's times when I need to do a journal entry, and I'm fine with that. I have a client that I kind of put all of her income in through her business because there's very little way for me to tell if this is her clients, money from her clients, or money from another business that she has, or if it's just her money that she's putting in. And then she will actually send me a list of, this is what I made this month, and this is what my expenses that I know of are. Like I know I paid rent for this much, and I know I paid, that's usually what it is. She'll say, this is what my income was, and this is what I paid in rent, and everything else I will take care of expensing for her. And so a lot of times I will just enter all of her income line by line. And then if it turns out to be more than what she says it is, now I know her, I have a personal relationship with her, and I know that she's scrupulously honest. We've had long talks about me saying, yes, you can write this off. Yes, yes, this is a legitimate business expense. And she doesn't believe me half the time. But I had to tell her, your car, if you go to, she's an esthetician, so I tell her, if you go to home visits, if you go to someone's home to do a facial or a waxing, you can write off those miles. And you can choose between writing off the miles and writing off the gas. I would write off the miles. And she goes, I can? Yes, you can. You used your car for business. You can do that. The reason I mention that is that she's so scrupulously honest, and she's so careful to not commingle funds, to not use her business bank account for her personal expenses. And by that, I really do mean she's not going to McDonald's unless, and paying for it with her business card, unless she's out running business errands. There's always some overlap, and that's important to know. We'll talk about that on Friday, commingling and overlap. There's always some overlap. So what you're looking for, so basically it's a very long way of saying, I know how to do a journal entry. I will do that. I do that for her to kind of reduce her income or raise it the next month so that it kind of falls into what she says it is. Sometimes she'll make a deposit and it won't clear, or it won't, if she makes a deposit on the 31st, it won't show up in her bank account to the 1st, and we want to make sure that everything is in the right month. So in that case, a lot of times I will do a journal entry, and what I will do is I will reduce sales and increase her members draw. And then if, the next month when it's flipped around, I will increase her sales and decrease her members draw. It's been a really, really long day. Really full day. That's the word I'm looking for. It hasn't been long. It's been very short because it's been very full, which is awesome. Another thing that you want to look for in a bookkeeper, you want them to know the difference between a debit and a credit. And I keep joking about this. Debit means left, credit means right. I get a little bit frustrated because I have run into software where, I'm really used to QuickBooks and I'm really used to Xero. And especially in QuickBooks, I can already look at something and go, okay, I need to reduce sales, so I'm going to credit sales. I need to reduce the amount in this cash account. Let me see, I use my debit card to spend money out of my cash account, so I'm going to debit cash and credit this other expense. I have an intact that seems to be backwards. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it seems to be backwards. You do want your bookkeeper to know the difference between a debit and a credit. You also want them to know the difference between the various types of accounts that you will have in your chart of accounts. You want them to know the difference between income and expenses. You want them to know the difference between a contra-income account and an expense account. What's a contra-income account? I'm so glad you asked. A contra-income account is not an expense, but it is a reduction in income, such as sales discounts. Sales discounts is really the one that kind of comes to mind. It is not an expense, but it does need to reduce the sale amount. So if you sell a widget for $100, but you discount it 2%, $2, for paying by the 10th, then that $2 actually goes into a contra income account. It counts against your sales, but it's not an expense. And if you understand that, that's awesome. Not too many people will. I'm sure I'm going to get comments like, I have no idea what you just said. They need to know the difference between income and expense accounts. They need to know what an equity account is and why we use them. They need to know the difference between an expense and a liability. They need to know, and I have actually had people working for me who have not known this. They didn't work for me very long. They need to know what a credit card is. And how to handle one. A credit card is a liability account. They need to know that, and then they need to know how to fix their own errors. Now, I'm not saying a good bookkeeper is never going to make a mistake. They're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. The question is, do they catch them and do they fix them? Sometimes it may take a while. I kind of depend on reports. My auto repair shop that I work with, sometimes I will get bills in months after I've paid the bill. And because we have a lot of vendor accounts, we have suppliers that we have credit accounts with, sometimes I don't catch that. If I don't notice that it's past the date, and sometimes they have the cutoff date is in the middle of the month, I may not catch the date being out of order. I try to, but sometimes I don't. So about once a quarter, I'll pull up an AP aging report, accounts payable aging report, that shows me which bills are past 30 days past due. I want to know this for a couple of reasons. One is, obviously, if it's more than 30 days past due and I haven't paid it, I need to pay it. If it's more than 30 days past due, especially if it's more than 90 days past due, I need to look at it and see, is this something that was paid on another statement? If it was, then I can get rid of that, basically, and that kind of cleans up the AP. The same thing with accounts receivable. They import all of their receivables out of a automotive shop software, and sometimes it doesn't like QuickBooks very well. So I kind of have to go through and I have to make sure that everything that has, if the payment is being applied to the invoice, the name won't show up on the list. But if it has been applied to the invoice, I will see the name with a 0 next to it, and I have to go in and actually manually match the payment and the invoice to each other so that it goes away and it's like QuickBooks knows it's been paid. Now, one of the great things about this is that then I get to look and say, oh, I've gotten a $300 payment from this person. I'm going to go back into the shop software And I'm going to look and see, do they still owe more money on this repair order? Or are they making payments as agreed? Or do I need to write this off? And then I go back to the owner and I talk to him about it and say, you know, are we like keeping his car or what's the deal? You know, the same thing if they're doing a very large job, they'll request a down payment on it to make sure that, you know, they're at least getting paid for their parts. And they're scrupulously honest. Again, I like to surround myself with scrupulously honest people. I don't like dishonesty. So they will ask for a down payment just to make sure that, you know, if something goes sideways, they can at least pay for their parts if they can't pay for their labor. So I will look at that and say, oh, have we even finished the job? Have we gotten full payment on the job? It's important things to know if you're doing accounts receivable. Now the catch is, going back to being a self-starter, the owner does not have to come back and tell me, I need you to make sure my accounts receivable is clean. I already know that that's something I need to do. We did talk today about inventory, and I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. I hate inventory. I hate inventory, but I can manage with it. And so we talked about how to manage the inventory kind of moving forward, and I said I don't really want to go back and fix it moving backwards, and we agreed on that. They just want to make sure that the prices are updated as prices from their suppliers is updated. And so that's not a big deal to fix. But that is something that, because I don't do inventory usually, it's not on my radar. But again, being a self-starter does mean that I'm the one that's going to him and saying, I need to reconcile, I need to do this, I need to do that. And he is not having to worry about it. He has told me it has saved his business. Because if he had to do what I do, it would take him 40 hours a week instead of 10, and he would be crazy. Hope he's not watching this. I do see that somebody's watching. Hope it's not him, because I really like him. He's an awesome guy. Some other things that you need to look for in a bookkeeper. We talked about using modern technology. We talked about being a self-starter, and then they need to know, they really need to know, believe it or not, and like I said, it shocks me that I talk to people who profess to be accountants that I have to even bring this up about. They need to know what these different accounts are and how to use them. And that's really it. That's what you need to look for. I don't care how knowledgeable they are if they don't have a go-getter type of a personality. That's what I'm looking for. I am excited when I see someone who's excited. If they are a go-getter, they will come and ask me questions. And I love that. I love to have someone come ask me questions. It tells me, hey, handsome.
See if the next week is canceled. We don't have enough leaders.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
FYI.
Darn. Scout camp out's canceled. Not enough leadership. Sorry about the interruption. That's my 14-year-old son, and he's incredibly important to me. But I would rather have someone who's a go-getter with that kind of personality, who's not afraid to come up to me and ask questions, than to have someone who's so timid they can't even text me. Because if they're that timid, I don't know what they don't know. I have no way of knowing what they don't know. And so I kind of expect people to know what they're doing right off the bat, and if they don't, they've got to come talk to me about it. I can give them a little bit of direction, but if they really don't know things, they've got to come tell me about it. I can train skills. I cannot train attitude. So that's my take on how to tell if you've got a really good bookkeeper. Sorry this has been such a very long video, but I kind of rambled. Tomorrow we're going to talk about form versus function and which one I prefer and why. And then on Friday, we'll talk about commingling funds. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow.